All right, so you have a couple different options for your assignment. You can basically, you have to create an animation, some sort of motion. You can do that a couple different ways. Basically I'm going to give you 3 ways to kind of do this that I think would be beneficial to do in Photoshop. So the one way is just to do hand-drawn, traditional, you draw frame by frame by frame, like you would back in the day, except just digitally. The other way is to rotoscope, where you take a piece of footage, you can make your own or find a piece of footage, and you draw over top of it frame by frame. And then the last way I'm going to suggest, especially if you're like a photo person, is to do a pixelation. And what a pixelation is basically animating people or things, objects as they're meant to be, over time, like they're puppets, right? So the most famous, the actual term is actually derived from Norman McLaren, who made Neighbors. He actually ended up winning an Oscar for it, Best Short Film. And if you watch, so basically you can see he has 2 people who are neighbors, and basically they end up not getting along. He obviously uses some actual footage in here as well, but eventually, let's see, when he gets to the actual, they end up fighting over this flower. I'm trying to, when are they going to get to the, but he does a lot of stuff where he basically does rotoscoping. So you can see the movements and stuff. He shoots frame by frame. This is, so if you want to watch, this is kind of, he's the one that coined pixelation as a term that we use. But there's some other great ones here that I also put on my site that I would highly suggest that are really cool, like Her Morning Elegance or Pez's Western Spaghetti. So I'm not going to play it. I'm just going to play a piece of it. So just so you guys know, they've got it clean. All right, let's, come on. Great. We get to watch the whole ad together. Thank you, YouTube. I guess I'm posting my videos on here, so I shouldn't be complaining. All right. But anyways, Pez is a pretty famous animator. He's in New York City. But he does the stuff where he kind of films animation frame by frame. So it's just, it moves, person takes a picture, moves, takes a picture, you know, adds different things. So you see this is just aluminum foil. But he's really clever because he uses basically real world objects and makes that part of his thing, but he uses them in a different way. And he has a whole bunch of, he was actually nominated for an Oscar, not for this one. It was Fresh Guacamole. That was, oh, there it is, Oscar nominated short. He didn't end up winning, but anyways, he's you can see he has a unique way of working. But here's the thing: if you decide to do this, for one, you're probably going to want an actual like DSLR good camera. Not that you can't do it with a phone camera, but you'll probably struggle if you are using that. The difference when you use stop motion, you know, in class here I talk about, like, you know, easing in and arcs and, you know, timing and spacing and, you know, anticipation. The main thing when you're doing stop motion and pixelation being part of that as well is craftsmanship. And what I mean by that is this: if the camera shakes, so if you look, you see how like these things are all moving around, the motions are a little bit jittery and stuff, and that's fine, but the camera is absolutely still. So you need like a camera stand or something to steady the camera. If the camera moves at all, it's going to be really, really jarring, and it's going to be very difficult to see. The lighting's consistent, the camera's consistent, the motions are smooth. They make sure they take enough pictures so that you can see it. It's all about just quality of the imagery itself. You can get away with not like super like beautifully animated motions, but you can't get away with poorly crafted images. So they need to be consistent. So if you do decide to do that, you're going to want to get like a DSLR and a camera stand, or some sort of way of making sure that the camera is absolutely not moving while you take the pictures. If it moves, it will not look good. And you can do whatever you want for this. If you want to like just like have your teddy bears like march through space, you know, or have I've seen people where they take in a bunch of their toys and they all start fighting together, or they took leaves and they make the leaves right out of Word. I had somebody who he mimes like he's pulling a car, and then the car ends up hitting him. people doing like battles and all sorts of stuff. Okay, so you can have a lot of fun with this. So I would even suggest, if it is something you're interested in doing, is go online, look up some, and you will find like just did I put that one in there? Yeah. Watch this insert coin. That's a really cool one. But watch it to the very end because they'll show how they actually made it. I would watch all of these to start with because I think you'll watch these and be like, those are crazy. You could do some really cool, interesting things with it. So if you really, really don't want to draw, this is one way of working. You can basically just take a bunch of pictures. Now, when you go to take it, like I said, you want to have consistent lighting so that the lighting doesn't change. You want the camera to be still. You want to have enough pictures. You want to take a lot of pictures. It's better to take too many pictures than not enough. When you are taking the pictures, you cannot, if you accidentally take a picture and you don't like it, you cannot get rid of it. Because if you get rid of it, what's going to happen is when you bring it into Photoshop, it's going to show up as a missing frame. And that's not going to, it's just going to show a blank frame. And it's going to be all messed up. So you can't screw up your pictures. You have to take a picture, then take the next picture, and then take the next picture. Because the way that it's going to work is that after you take your pictures, you're going to go into Photoshop, and then you're going to do this. I'm just not going to save it here. You're going to create new, and you're going to go film video. Make sure when you do take your pictures, especially if you're using a DSLR, make sure you're taking pictures as JPEG and take them in the lowest resolution possible. You'll choose like this one here. We'll create. I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of the extras here. And then you're going to create a video timeline. Actually, before you do, actually, no, go ahead and create the video timeline. You're going to go to here, and then you're going to go to set timeline frame rate. You do not want to do 29.97 because there's no way that you took that many photos. What I would suggest is doing something like between 6 frames per second and 8 frames per second. That's probably roughly around the number that you want because you're going to take way too few, I guarantee it. So you do that first before you bring in your footage. Then once you have this and you have your timeline in here, what you want to do is bring in your images. So what you're going to do is you're going to have your pictures, you're going to get them off your camera, and when you bring them into Photoshop, what it's going to do is it's going to use your images sequence. Right, so if I take a picture and it's like DCM 369, the next one's going to be DCM 370. The next one's going to be DCM 371. What Photoshop's going to do is it's going to understand what that is, and it's going to see it as an image sequence. And it's going to say, oh, that's the first one, and that's the last one, and it's going to put those in its frames. So you cannot remove any of the pictures, okay? So anyways, when you go to bring it in, all you're going to do is you're going to go to Image. I'm sorry, you're going to go to, where are you? Layer, video layer. You can do new video layer from file. And then you're going to have, these are videos, but you're going to have a big long list of all these. Actually, you know what? I could probably, hang on a second. Let's do 3D examples. Okay. So this is like something I did before. So it'd be the same thing. These are PNGs, right? So if you look, see how it says 001, then 002? It's an image sequence, okay? So it's just a bunch of pictures. So that's what you're going to have. What you're going to want to do is, yours are obviously going to be videos, not rendered frames from 3D. You'll select the first one. You don't have to select the other ones. It'll automatically know it's an image sequence. See how down here it says image sequence? You'll hit open, and then it's actually going to bring it in as footage. And you will actually see it animated, just like that. Oh God. Okay. Anyway, you'll see it here like that, and then you can hit Control T. It's going to ask to make it a smart object. That's fine. And then you can adjust the size so that it's the correct size for what you're working on. Then hit Enter, and you will have your film. And you can hit play, and you can see it. And this is going to run really slow because this was running at 30 frames per second. And I just made it 6 frames per second. But anyways, so you'll see your film. You'll be like, yay. And then you just need to export it. So to export it, you're just going to click on this. You're going to go to render video. And then these settings are all totally fine. All you're going to want to do is change the name of it and where you want it to save to. And then you can submit the PSD and the MPEG that it creates onto Blackboard. But this will be something that anybody can watch, and you just hit render when you're good, and it will render it out for you, and you'll have your video, and it'll be super awesome. All right. So unfortunately, this is actually one of the things that we do in class because you kind of need to see it to do it. But hopefully you'll kind of figure it out if you decide to do this. But if you run into any issues, let me know, and I'll try my best to get back to you. All right. So good luck.